Before you scroll up, change the channel, let me catch your attention for a brief moment here. What if the biggest danger from extreme heat is not simply how hot it gets, but how long your body is forced to endure that peak heat? And what if age and what age you are changes the point at which the heat becomes dangerous? A new study published in the Lancet Planetary Health has issued a serious warning, particularly for older adults living in some of the world's hottest and most densely populated regions. The study looks at something called heat stress, not simply the temperature on the thermometer, but the combined effect of the temperature and humidity on the human body. And its central finding is striking. Let's break that down for all of you. At 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming, around 22% of the world's older adults, roughly 290 million people all in all, could experience unsafe heat for at least a month every year. But India is among the countries facing a particularly serious risk. At 3 degrees of global warming, researchers estimate that more than 80% of India's older adults could experience at least 180 hours of what the study calls intolerable heat each year. Now, that phrase needs some explanation. So very quickly, intolerable heat does not mean that crossing the threshold means immediate death. It means the combination of temperature and humidity becomes so stressful that the body can no longer maintain its core temperature, even during very light activity. And prolonged exposure is where the real danger begins. For the national capital, for Delhi and the wider Indo-Gangetic Plain, the numbers are even more concerning. The study projects that older adults could experience close to or more than 1,000 hours of intolerable heat each year at 1.5 degrees of warming. I think we're already beyond that. And at 3 degrees, that could rise beyond 2,000 plus hours. And importantly, these hours aren't evenly distributed across the year. They are concentrated largely between May and September. There is another crucial warning here. The heat may not simply end when the sun goes down. We're talking about the night time. At higher levels of warming, older adults could experience dangerous heat repeatedly through both day and night for consecutive months. That matters because nighttime cooling is when the human body gets a chance to finally recover. So why are older people particularly vulnerable here? As we age, our ability to regulate body temperature also changes. We generally sweat less, blood vessels don't respond quickly, the heart has to work a little bit harder. And that means a temperature that may be manageable for a healthy younger person can create significantly greater physiological stress for an older adult. And the implications go beyond just health. Think about outdoor workers, farmers, electricity demand, access to cooling, poorly ventilated homes, and elderly people who may be living alone. And this is why simply issuing a heat warning may not be enough anymore in the future. We need to know who is the most vulnerable out there, where they live, whether they have access to cooling, and whether they can safely get through the hottest part of the day and increasingly the hottest part of the night. So what can we actually do? Check on elderly relatives and neighbors during prolonged heat. Keep water accessible, ensure homes are shaded and ventilated, and that cooling is available wherever possible. Avoid strenuous outdoor activity during the peak heat, and do not ignore the night, because a hot night can mean the body never gets the recovery that it actually needs and is longing for. The larger message from the study: heat is no longer simply a weather story, it's a public health challenge. And today we want to understand just how serious that challenge could become for India, and what governments, what communities and individuals can do to keep ourselves prepared for it. Let's discuss this with our environmental expert, and we've got a doctor on board, Anil Sood, environmentalist, with us on the broadcast. Many thanks, Mr. Sood. Dr. Amitabh Parthi, internal medicine, Fortis Memorial Research Institute, also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Sood, you see, the study projects more than 2,000 plus hours of intolerable heat, especially for older adults. That's about 80%, 290 million odd people, especially for the Delhi and the Indo-Gangetic Plain. At 3%, at 3 degrees Celsius, this number goes even higher. How seriously should we be looking at that number? And is this study really making us think differently, or it was going to happen and we better prepare ourselves?
Good evening, Kabir. Thank you very much for having me on the show. It's an emergency. It's not a case that study has projected today, but it started almost 3 years ago. And as it is today, we do not for most of the during most of the summer
Yeah.
season, we do not have difference between day and night temperature. Heat island impact is already there, courtesy killing of green lung, and the poorest of poor are the worst victims, and outdoor workers are the worst victims of this heat island impact,
Unfortunately,
because
yes.
because they are they have to earn their livelihood. In summer, if you see, you cannot get your even house repaired during daytime because of heat.
Yeah.
In farm, labor cannot work because of heat. Even your TSR driver cannot drive auto rickshaw or even this e-rickshaws because of heat. So it's a very big problem, and threat has already started. Rather, it has become a reality. It's looming large, and it will gain momentum with careless governments not considering the mandatory greening of the cities, whereas they are raising concrete buildings and they are sacrificing green lands and creating concrete jungles. Over
Yeah.
to you.
And more so than that, now that the spending power and the ambitions are increasing, each of these concrete setups also have an air conditioner, which is again adding to the stress on global warming. But coming back to the health part, because the study focuses a lot on how the nighttime cooling is equally important for the body to recover, and we might not be getting that when it comes to intolerable heat. So, Dr. Amitabh, when we usually think of heat waves in terms of daytime maximum temperatures, how much does humidity and nighttime heat change the actual danger to the human body per se?
It's very important to understand that once there is heat and the thermoregulations of the system would improve the temperature by sweating. If you have a hot and humid climate and the heat persists in the night time when it actually should drop, you are suppressing sweating that is going to further increase the core temperature and further damage the organs. So it is the temperatures which are the ambient and also the ability of the body to thermoregulate by sweating. Apart from this, there would be other problems in elderly individuals. Thermoperception, thermoregulation, like you said, less blood supply, all of them would worsen. These elderly individuals would also be suffering from hypertension, would be on diuretics or urine creating medicines, which will actually worsen the situation.
Yeah.
So you are increasing the core temperature, not sweating adequately. Temperatures at 3 degrees higher tend to have heat exhaustion or heat strokes. So there's a huge exposure to heat-related injury that's occurring in elderly individuals.
Okay. And doctor, at the same point in time, you see, what are some of those early warning signs of dangerous heat stress that families should recognize, especially in the elderly people?
The elderly people must be asked dryness of mouth, lesser output of urine, change or discoloration of urine to a yellow, dark yellow, orange color, tremors or increased body temperature, drowsiness, and definitely altered sensorium. All of these will be early signs the patient is getting dehydrated and heat exhaustion. And we must try and address this issue very early
Yeah.
on, because later on, situation may actually damage, which means really irreversible.
Okay, okay. Mr. Sood, if you had to identify the three most urgent things when we're doing, because India's existing heat action plans, are they sufficiently granular or not, is a separate question here. If one had to identify the three most urgent things that we as a nation now need to do to prepare for this particular hot future, intolerable hot future, what should they be, sir?
First and foremost is the greening. We must protect the green lungs. We must protect the water bodies around our cities or habitation, wherever we are living. And third is we must keep our bodies hydrated. And again, no risk taking by venturing out during peak summer.
Yeah. I also wanted to know, you see, the study suggests that simply shifting outdoor work to cooler times of the day or the cooler hours may become harder when the heat persists through the night as well. What does that then
It,
mean for the agriculture work, for India's large outdoor workforce?
See, nowadays, even this summer also, day and for last 3 years, I am experiencing day and night temperature difference has reduced.
Yeah.
So by that time, earlier, by the time atmosphere starts becoming cooler, there was some respite. People could come, even for morning work also, you could go. Today, with the change in the temperature pattern, there is no cooling impact at night. Buildings and surface area remains hot. So there is no possibility of shifting work hours early morning or late in the evening because temperature is going to remain the same and remains the same. Fatigue levels are very high throughout the day, whether it is 6 a.m. or whether it is 10 p.m. It doesn't change.
Then what are we to
So
do, Mr. Sood?
we are looking at very serious problem in days to come. And this is not the first time I had been saying this for last almost 3 years, that the moment day and night temperature difference is eliminated, we are heading for a disaster. And worst is the poorest of the poor who have no means to remain cool. Those who are living in JJ cluster or those who are living around railway track, they have no means. They have no resources even to keep them under shade or reduce the temperature or even keep them hydrated properly. Because even water is not there, the worst part. So governments are unmindful of problems being faced by citizens. The plans paper are prepared while sitting in air-conditioned offices, and everything looks very rosy while reports are presented, whereas ground realities are totally different.
It's an
Over to you.
emergency. I think we'll stick to that. It's an
Yes.
emergency. Dr.
It's
Amitabh, for viewers at home and especially for the viewers that might not be watching this broadcast, but let's still put the word out for all those, the concerns that Mr. Sood was talking about, the JJ clusters, the poor people out there, the ones that don't have a roof when it becomes really hot and the nighttime and the daytime difference is diminishing as we speak. What is your simple heat safety checklist for protecting the elderly parents, for the grandparents, for the neighbors that are probably living alone? Let's put it out there for them.
So start with the clothing. Light colored, loose, comfortable clothing. Hydration, adequate 2.5 to 3 liters, maybe more. Should be on. Look at the color of the urine. Look at the temperature of the body and try and keep it as dry as possible. Remove excessive sweat and let it sweat again. Keep yourself moist. You can have a frequent bath. Give yourself good nutrition. Have nice juices and soups. Keep yourself well nourished in terms of proteins and a little bit of physical activity, probably more in the time when the temperature is not so hot.
Yeah.
But very important is hydration. And most importantly, we must inform these patients to reach their nearest consultant or physician to optimize the medicines that they are receiving. There are certain drugs which will worsen heat-induced injury, like diuretics, excessive urine creating, anticholinergic agents, antihypertensives. Certain people are diabetics. All these medicines need to get optimized. Their sodium potassium level needs to be tested.
Yeah.
So elders must be informed that the medicine needs to be optimized, hydration needs to be correct.
This is again
clothing-
turning out to be a situation of haves and have-nots because
Yes.
this list is important, but this is a list for the privileged, for the elite out there. Not everybody can afford this, and that's the sad part. So maybe the government really needs to step in, really needs to now do a little bit more for the larger multitude of this country that don't have access to all that the doctor has pointed out. Those who have access to that, please make sure that you go through this particular list. And if we are to reverse the emergency that Mr. Sood, very rightly pointed out, I think, afforestation, putting in, planting more trees, greenery being the savior here. That's what we should now focus upon.
Yes.
On that note, to both my panelists, many thanks for taking on the time and speaking to us here
Thank
on
you.
this very important study. The warning from the study is not simply about a hotter planet. It's about a planet where some people become vulnerable much sooner than the others, and what we can do for them. For our country's elderly, extreme heat can mean greater health risk. It can mean less recovery at night and potentially thousands of